Welcome back to another edition of the SwimSwam Breakdown. As always, I'm your host, Coleman Hodges, coming to you from Austin, Texas, joined by Yin Lee in Evanston, Illinois. Yin, how are you? I know you had a tough weekend after you were denied a 200 IM showdown between Kate Douglas and Summer McIntosh in Knoxville. How you holding up, bud?
I was mourning over that, and the fact that it's like negative degrees out is not helping. Like when I go outside, I can feel my eyelashes freezing. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, that is not good. Yeah, it's cold, so everyone stay inside and listen to the SwimSwam Breakdown.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even in Austin, it's like I think it's in the teens, which for Texas is kind of like being in the negatives in Illinois. We're all freaking out. I think there's a significant chance we lose power. So
no! Why?
if
Is it snowing?
It's not snowing, Texas is just not set up for the cold. And when it gets cold, stuff freezes and breaks. And anywho, if my lights go out, that's why. But let's talk about Knoxville. We didn't get to see the McIntosh-Douglas showdown in the 2IM as we had predicted and we're looking forward to. But there were a lot of good showdowns, even in that 200 IM, and there was a ton of good racing, surprisingly, mostly on the last night when I left, which I was disappointed at. But Yin, we'll start with you. What were your biggest takeaways, surprises, highlights from this Knoxville Pro Swim?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway for me is that Summer McIntosh is still a heavy favorite. Not heavy favorite, but decent favorite. In the 200 IM, she went 201, 207.15, which is faster than what won at Worlds. And the fact that she's just throwing this time down at this Pro Series meet really implicates that there are big things coming her way in this event. Last year around this time, she was like a 208 flat. Now she's nearly a second faster than that. So honestly, I don't think there's anyone in the world that has the ability to be so dominant in back fly and free the way she is, and I think that's really gonna be what propels her. Maybe Kate Douglas is the only one that can match her on the freestyle leg, but I don't think we haven't seen her be as proficient with like balancing the opening half and the closing half of her races, and obviously backstroke's still a problem there. Her backstroke I think is worse than Summer McIntosh's breaststroke, so we'll see what happens with that. Kate Douglas and the 200 breast obviously very fast, but it's also, for me, it felt like a long time coming because I feel she's been knocking on the door of that 221 low threshold since 2022. She's been kind of stuck there, but this was like her big breakthrough, and I'm curious to see if she can hold up in bigger championship meets. And I think if Evgenia Trukhnova can't compete, she probably is the favorite in Paris because she's considerably faster than Tatiana Schumacher has been since Tokyo. So those were my two biggest takeaways. There wasn't much other stuff going on at this meet. So
yeah, I mean, those were definitely the big swims. Before I get into my highlights, I want to mention a couple things about yours. Alex Walsh 207.8 in that same 200 IM. 207.6. Jesus.
yeah.
Faster than she was at Worlds this summer. So great swim for her. Really took it to Summer, was ahead at the 150 by, a few 100s. But as you said, former world record holder in the 400 free, probably going to be pretty hard to beat on that last 50 in the 200 IM. It was, she has certainly asserted herself. And then in that women's 200 breast, 219.3 from Kate Douglas for a new American record, breaking Rebecca Soni's 12-year-old record. in that event, which is pretty insane. I feel like Kate was definitely due for a big time drop. I didn't see this coming, and certainly not in January. That's just a really good swim, and I think bodes very well for what we're going to see in Doha from her. I think she said at the at this past weekend, she's entered in 5 individual events, planning on trying to swim all 5 of them in Doha. And I think she had also mentioned in a previous interview that relays will not be a priority and or not happening at all for her. I don't know if that's the case for the other females on the roster. There are only 5, but for her to get the chance to only focus on individual events and swim all 5, I feel like that could be pretty cool and lead to maybe a really unique outcome.
Yeah, I mean, for her, Doha is really just another pro swim meet or US Open type of meet with the swimming a lot of events, not doing relays. It's just with the addition of semifinals and having all that good international competition. So to her, this meet is sort of just maybe a pro meet, but a few steps up. So that will be interesting to see.
Agreed. Yeah, so I'm getting more and more excited for the Doha World Championships, not because I think it's going to be at the level of another World Championships, but just because we're going to see some really interesting things that maybe we haven't seen before in swimming, and it'll give a lot of people who are there good opportunities to throw down some really fast times in February, which we're not used to seeing except for conference championships.
Yeah. But those are in the bathtub pool.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll get to see long course. February is going to be nuts, is what I'm trying to say. Long course, short course, we got it all coming. Yeah. Other than that, the pro swim in Knoxville time wise was not anything crazy. I think for me, my biggest takeaway, this is not groundbreaking, but Katie Ledecky's emphasis, I guess more pointed emphasis on the 800 and the 1500 free. We saw her throw down 15:38 in the mile and 8:14.9 in the 800, both of which are really great in season times. But then she was 4:03 in the 400 free, pointedly not where she is normally at this time in the season. And then she swam the 400 IM, which she won in a time that was, I'm sorry, she got second next to Tennessee's Tessa Plucha. She was 4:44, so nothing crazy there, and then didn't even swim the 200 free. And she said in her post-race interview that she's focused on the 8 and the 15. She would like to do something really special there in Paris, and not to say in a Katie Ledecky way where it's kind of an umbrella statement. Like she's like, I'm still focused on the 200. I'm still doing work on the 200 free for the relay. I'm still doing work for the 400 free, but for her emphasis is really on the 8 and the 15. And again, I don't think this is groundbreaking, but it was really interesting for me to hear her say that. I don't know if she has said that before. It totally makes sense. These are the events where she's way ahead of the world. Obviously in the 400 free, Summer and Ariarne Titmus have both caught her. And we've got other women who are gaining ground in that regard. But you can see even in season now that it looks like she's putting a lot of work into those longer events, which is, making her shorter events not as good in season, but it could be really exciting to see what she's got come Olympic trials and the Paris Olympics in those longer events.
Yeah, and I think that's the smart decision for her at this point in her career because she's not going to be Ariarne Titmus. She's not going to beat Summer McIntosh. But in the 18 and 1500, there is no one remotely close to her, and she's getting better and better in those events since Tokyo. and not getting better and better in the 200 or the 400. So really, I think that totally makes sense for her and her career. I'm really excited to see what she has in store for Paris, and it's something that I think we've all known about Ledecky, but with her emphasis on the distance events. But this is just the first time she's really said it, verbally confirmed it.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the past, even going back to the last season, I think she was still gunning for the 400. In terms of, she certainly won a medal, and I think we all thought there's a chance Ledecky could win this. Like it was in the wheelhouse of possibilities, I think, but I don't think that's. I think that chance is smaller now, and I think she kind of has come to terms with that and said, "I'm going to put my eggs in the distance basket heading into this Olympic Games," which I think is smart. The other thing from just being at the meet was it's really cool when when the host of a pro swim is also the pool of a college team, because every time a Tennessee athlete won an event, the whole Tennessee team would just erupt, and the whole Tennessee crowd would join in with them. And so super cool to have that kind of an environment at a pro swim where you really have a home crowd advantage, and the Tennessee athletes kind of thrive on that. And they were swimming quite well. And I think we saw a lot more Tennessee wins than we normally would have, just because they were kind of feeding off that energy. So just kind of a cool note of actually being there and getting to see that.
For sure.
All right. And speaking of college swimming, we had some dual meets that had some really interesting things. We'll start off with the Stanford Pacific Mitten, where we saw Andrei Minakov, Ron Polonsky, and Zaire Fawn all back in the pool for the Cardinal. Last October, Stanford head coach Dan Schimmel said that Minakov, Polonsky, and Fawn were redshirting the fall semester with the potential to compete during the winter quarter. And the trio's return represents a massive boost for the Cardinal, as Minakov and Polonsky combined for 34.5 of their 43.5 individual swimming points at last year's NC2A champs. Yin Yin, what do you make of Fawn, Polonsky, and Minakov all coming back for Stanford, especially heading into championship season with Pac-12s and NCs?
I mean, I think it's great for Stanford. Definitely a huge boost. I think a lot of Stanford's top 10 chances were hinging on whether Minakov would come back, because he's such an important part to the team, both individually and on relays. And I think especially in the context of their situation right now, with swimmers like Rex Maurer and Henry McFadden going personal best and doing really well, that this isn't a position that Stanford is always in. But just to have their mid-season success combined with some of their best swimmers who we weren't really sure would be here for the end of the NCAA season also coming to compete, I think this makes for a really good Stanford team that I think is a top 10, maybe top 7 or 8 team in the NCAA.
Yeah, I will actually be at the Stanford ASU duel on Friday. And I would love to talk to these three men, fingers crossed, just to get their perspective on what went into this decision for each of them. Because we see this from other swimmers on other college teams too, where they take the fall semester off from classes during an Olympic year just to kind of focus on the training and building that base. So I'm curious if that was their line of thinking, or it might have been something else. I think we reported that Minakov was in the transfer portal and possibly looking at other schools. He's also in the unique situation where he's Russian, and so he might not even get to compete at the Olympic Games. And so like college competition might be kind of all he's got, aside from maybe like a Russian nationals or a Russian long course meet where he gets to show what he's got in that pool. I would be interested to see what went into this decision for all of them, and if they had planned from the start to come back for this winter term, or the second semester of swimming and competition, or if that was kind of a game time decision for any of them or all of them come December or January. But obviously for Stanford, yeah, they are in a much better position scoring wise heading into Pac-12s and NCs with these three back. And like you said, especially combined with where the team is at now and kind of the youngsters that looked really good at midseason. I mean, yeah, go Cardinal. I'm sure they are happy to have these additions, but kind of a really interesting situation, and I would love to learn more about that. But I think all three of them kind of came in. It was a weird meet where they mostly swam 150s and 50s of stroke, so we didn't really get to see a ton of actual events. But it seems like all three of these athletes kind of slotted in seamlessly and didn't really miss a beat. They all looked strong in the events that they did swim. So it also, not only are they returning, but they seem to be on form as well, which is obviously a positive for Stanford.
Yeah, Coleman, like what you said about Minakov, I'm not really sure about Polonsky and Fawn, but I think Minakov made it clear in the fall that a lot of his decisions were hinging on the fact on whether Russia would be allowed to compete at the Olympics or not. And I think right now, as we're getting closer and closer to Paris, and I still don't think we have a clear answer. I think definitely what you said about how college swimming might be the only thing for him, and he's going to want to take advantage of that. So I definitely can understand why he came back.
Yeah, and so I guess hopefully we'll get to see what he's got in the bathtub at least. But as a not defending, but as a prior NC2A champion in the 100 fly, hopefully we get to see some good things out of him and the rest of the guys who return for Stanford. Mm-hmm. Moving on to the Virginia Tech dual meet. We saw some pretty good things out of the UVA women, as per usual, even though they were without a couple of their best swimmers. I believe Ella Nelson and Alex Walsh, and there's a third one I'm forgetting, all stayed in Knoxville rather than left Knoxville a day early to go compete at Virginia Tech. But we still, saw a lot of fast swimming, including Gretchen Walsh throwing down the third fastest 50 fly split of all time in 21.9. And then on the men's side, Virginia Tech took the meet handily, 191 to 108. I was talking to Todd DeSorbo in Knoxville, and he said that the Virginia Tech men have not lost a home conference dual meet since 2012, which is kind of insane to me. And I don't, for a little bit of reference, I don't think NC State has had a dual meet at Virginia Tech in quite a while, maybe somewhere in the ballpark of 8 to 10 years. However, that's a pretty crazy statistic to have not lost a home dual meet in like well over a decade. But Yin, give me your thoughts on this dual meet.
I'm very curious as to why Gretchen Walsh left the Pro Swim series to race at this meet, because I think she's an Olympic contender. It's an Olympic year, and the 50 free was going on then, and I'm just curious as to why she decided to come back and swim a college meet where she was swimming off events. Like, she swam breaststroke. Actually, no, she did. She swam the 100 breast and a relay. Like, I want to know what went into her decision, why she thought doing that would be more beneficial than racing the Pro Swim series at in long course. I'm not criticizing her decision. I'm just curious, but I think the thing that stood out to me the most was Gretchen Walsh's 59.7 100 breast, because that sort of proves that she can do it all in yards, even breaststroke. And I'm pretty sure, so she has a 48.2 100 back, 59.7 100 breast, 48.2 I believe in the 100 fly, and then a 45.6 in the 100 free. And last year I talked about how Kate Douglas's four strokes for a 100 stroke events added up was faster than almost any other team's medley relay. And I think Gretchen Walsh has an even faster add up right now, so that's pretty crazy.
I think someone in the comments mentioned that if you take that, or that 48 to 100 fly from Gretchen, that she's now 1/100th faster than Kate.
Oh.
Yeah, which is, it's like, it's crazy that the two fastest women in history in that category, even though it's kind of like a nonsense category, are from the same school. But that's kind of the reputation that the UVA women have built at this point. I was talking to Coach DeSorbo in Knoxville. And so the reason that the three women who stayed behind in Knoxville did stay behind was that their best events were that day. So for Ella Nelson, it was the 200 breast. For Alex Walsh, it was the 2 IM. And I'm sorry, I'm forgetting Abby Harder of UVA also had the 2 IM. That was the third woman. But then the rest of them, I think Coach DeSorbo, as well as the other athletes, just kind of wanted them to get some long course reps in. I think Gretchen Walsh specifically, she had a good 100 free. She had a good 100 fly. Specifically for the 50 free, I'm guessing they can work on that in practice, or they weren't as worried about her getting race reps in for that 50 free. And I think the college season is still important. Obviously, it is an Olympic season, but I think they also have an emphasis on the college season. And so, yeah, again, some of those athletes stayed in Knoxville, and then some went to the Virginia Tech meet, having already gotten some long course racing in. So I think that's why we didn't talk about Gretchen specifically, but I'm guessing, she got some long course races in. She did well, 56.7 to win the 100 fly. And then she was 53.6 second place in the 100 free next to Kate. So I'm guessing, they're like, yeah, you got some good long course in. Let's go swim 100 breast short course.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely easier said than done, but to me, it just feels like Gretchen Walsh could probably pop a fast yard swim at any time, so it doesn't really matter what kind of reps she gets at this Virginia Tech meet, but that's probably not true. Definitely the college season's still important. That sort of practice and from these dual meets definitely does help, but it's just, to me and to the casual onlooker, it just seems like she can do it whenever.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, especially on the Virginia women team period, it seems like they can just swim fast whenever. And I also think that's part of Todd DeSorbo's philosophy. It was interesting talking to him. And I actually have an interview of him talking about this that will go up in a day or two. But I asked him what his goal was for the UVA team coming out of winter training. And he said, I want them coming out of winter training fast. I don't want them broken down. This isn't like a huge training block for them. I want them working on their speed and not only maintaining speed through winter training, but getting faster through winter training. So by the end of it, they are swimming faster than they were at the beginning of it, which is pretty opposite of the traditional, all right, 2 weeks of hell and breaking you down and long, hard practices. And then we're coming out of that. That's when we start working on speed and details and kind of coming down for the season. So yeah, again, way different philosophy, but obviously it's working. It's working for UVA. All right. The last little bit on college swimming, Diehl, who was the number one or number 2 recruit in the boys class of 2024.
Number 2.
Number
Kai
2.
Winkler's number 1.
Okay. I knew they were both NC State guys. But so they both committed to NC State. Diehl actually finished high school early this winter and is now training at NC State. He's not competing for them, but just leading up to Olympic trials. He will be, training in his new home of Raleigh, which I think is a great decision for him. I think he's from a smaller town. He trains. He doesn't have many training partners in his 6-lane, 25-yard YMCA pool that he trains in. I think that's really a cool opportunity on both sides. But I'm also a little surprised that when we're looking at classes of the future, we obviously look at UVA and Thomas Heilman and Maximus Williamson committing there, but I feel like we haven't talked too much about this class, this NC State 2024 class, and the potential that they could have within the NCAA. Does this change your feelings about that NC State men's class, knowing that Diehl has an extra semester of Wolfpack training under his belt?
I don't think it changes my opinion on the NC State class in short course yards, because I know they're going to be good no matter what. But to me, it sort of changes my view on Diehl and his long course potential, because he is a contender already right now in the 200 back. He could potentially make the Olympic team. He's also 53 low in the 100 back. So definitely he has 2 really good shots. And I think his training and deciding to graduate high school early to come to NC State shows that he's serious about this. He's all in on it, and he wants to have the resources to be successful and maximize his chances. So I think definitely we should be on the lookout for that, especially in that 200 back, where I feel like the second spot behind Ryan Murphy is still wide open. I know Destin Lasco got it last year, but we've got Diehl, who's going all in. Jack Aikens is taking an Olympic red shirt to focus on, and his best shots also at that second 200 back spot. So definitely it just shows that there's a lot of people who are really competing to get those backstroke spots, and Diehl's now one of them. And yeah.
Agreed. It's also kind of funny just looking at that second men's 200 back spot over the last 8 years. Obviously, we had Jacob Pebley in 2016. I don't really remember who the next few were.
I know Bryce Mefford was one of them.
So Bryce Mefford was Tokyo in 21, right?
Yeah.
But since then, it's like Bryce Mefford, 21, Shane Casas in 22, Destin Lasco in 23. So it's like there's kind of a lot of turnover that's happened with that spot. And like you said, we now have quite a few contenders. We've got Destin Lasco, Jack Aikens, Diehl, all kind of up there as like real legitimate shots. And it's obviously Olympic trials is about who can do it on the day. And I think we've kind of covered that any of those guys could get it done on that day. They have a real shot. So I think it'll be interesting to see how Diehl adjusts to new training. Again, obviously his training seems to have worked for him up to this point in his hometown. And I think going to a new training environment, having kind of never, he's been in that training environment, I believe, at least for the past 4 years. And so going to a brand new system, I'm hoping it works for him, obviously, but it can take some time to adjust. And his results in Knoxville were solid. He was 159.1 in the 200 back, which netted him a second place finish. And then he was 55.2 in the 100 back. So not insane, but those seem pretty good times for January. Again, having only been in Raleigh, I'm guessing, for less than a month or maybe a month. So, yeah, I think I hope it works for Diehl. I don't have much more to say because I don't really know the situation. We had requested an interview with him, but didn't end up working out in Knoxville. So hopefully we can talk to him soon and just see how it's going for him. But I'm just also a little surprised we haven't talked about that class for NC State a little more because I think the assumption has been that after this year, Leon Marchand may not be in the NCAA anymore. And if NC State is getting a major men's class like that, then I feel like that could maybe shift the power dynamic moving forward in the next few seasons on the men's side. And we've also seen NC State get classes of men like this before. And not to say they haven't panned out because they absolutely have, but I think it's just hard to get the depth, especially in the last 5 years, to challenge a men's program like Texas or Cal. And so I think it would be nice to see some parity, especially with the top 2 recruits in a men's class going to the same school, which we've seen a few other times before, but I think it'll be interesting to see what NC State does with these guys heading into the next few seasons, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, last year's freshman class for NC State, part of the reason why they didn't pan out was because of injuries. Michael Cotter got hurt, and Quinton McCarty was also hurt, but you saw Quinton McCarty do some really good things in during mid-seasons, and also he went 21-9 at the U.S. Open. So we're definitely seeing him live up to his potential. Michael Cotter, I don't really know what's going on with him. I know last year he suffered a scooter injury, but he hasn't done great this year. But definitely part of the reason why the class last year didn't pan out was because of injuries, not because the swimmers were slow or something.
Yeah, which I think, injuries are always a factor in sports or in athletics. So, yeah, hopefully we'll get to see that class pan out in a cool way. But all right, that's our news for the week. Now we're moving on to some fun and pretty unserious sink or swims. First up today on Sink or Swim, SwimSwam Pulse last week was what is the greatest Phelps Lochte Showdown. A resounding 55.2% said the 200 IM from 2011 Worlds. Yin, are you sinking or swimming this result that 200 IM was in fact the best Phelps Lochte Showdown of all time?
I am going to swim it. Is there really another option? Like, when I think of Phelps and Lochte, that's what I think of that exact race. Just the amount of star power, the times being thrown down, still the top 2 performances ever. You're not going to beat that.
I mean, it's true. And I voted for that as well, but I'm just going to sink it for this show to make the case for another race, which was at the same meet, but the 200 free at the 2011 Worlds was also a race I really loved. I remember specifically we got to get out of practice early, or like stop the set so that we could get out and watch that race live. And you had Phelps, Lochte, Park Tae-hwan, Paul Biederman, and Yannick Agnel, who were all contenders in that race. And then you had Lochte throwing down a massive 144.4, Phelps in second at 144.7. It wasn't necessarily the marquee Phelps Lochte showdown, but it was such a great race where America triumphed 1 and 2, but it wasn't a set in stone thing like the 200 IM. And so for me, it was so cool to see Phelps and Lochte not only duke it out with each other, but with the rest of the world and prevail 1-2. I think that was one of my favorite Phelps Lochte moments because not only did they fight each other, but they got to beat the rest of the world. So,
well, then it's not a Phelps Lochte moment. Well, then you're not liking it because it's a Phelps Lochte moment. You're liking it because it's Phelps Lochte and everyone else. So
you're right. I was just making the case for another race.
I'm trying to be contrarian again.
All right. Next up on Sink or Swim, Chalmers, Mr. Kyle Chalmers, is set to swim the 800 free once again at the South States Championships. He swam it last year at this meet and went an 8:22.93. I'm curious if you think he can take a good chunk of time off of that swim and go 8:14.97, which is what Katie Ledecky swam in the 800 free this past weekend in Knoxville.
You know what this is reminding me of? This is reminding me of when we were arguing about whether Katie Ledecky could beat Caleb Dressel in the 800 free. And what people...
Wait, was that an 800?
Yeah, it was an 800.
Oh, that seems like a dumb argument now.
Yeah,
like, obviously,
no.
Katie would win.
Yeah. Some people said Dressel would win. Apparently, I remember Mel saying Dressel would win. Like I heard about it on some podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't get that. Of course, Katie would win that.
Yeah, maybe we should bring that argument back though. Get like Mel and Braden on. It's a four-way argument of.
I'm gonna sink it because no matter how good of a swimmer you are, going 8:14 in the 800 free, that's not something that you just do if you're not seasoned in distance swimming. And Kyle Chalmers obviously is not. I could see him going like 8:19, 8:18. I'm pretty sure he went 8:20 the last time he swam this, right?
8:22.
8:22. Okay, yeah. I can see him going like 8:18, 8:19, but going 8:14 after going 8:22 like just a year ago and not really training for the event. I don't see it happening. No, I'm gonna sink it.
Yeah, I just threw this one in here for fun, but I definitely think that's a sink. And I'll go one step further. I think if he did go 8:14.9, that would be a bad sign. Like he doesn't want to be going that. He doesn't want to be doing that well in an event that long, 5 months out from the Olympics, or 6 months out from the Olympics. Like maybe like in September or October, if he had been like throwing down some massive Ks and setting that aerobic base, like, and he went 8:14, then like that would be cool. And that'd be like, oh yeah, like good for him. But like, he should probably be not focusing on longer events that much to go an 8:14 in the 800 free. Like, I think it's fun and cool that he's swimming the 800, but like, you don't want him to be focusing that much because he's got a 100 free gold medal to win. In 6 months. So yeah, I'm sinking that as well. I don't think he's going to match Ledecky in that one, which is no shade to Mr. Chalmers. That's just a testament to Katie Ledecky's greatness. And finally, Mr. Gold Medal Mel put out a gold medal minute last week, documenting Leon Marchand's comeback from surgery and illness. He got his wisdom teeth removed. He was sick in November, but he seems to be back. Against Grand Canyon, he threw down a 136 200 freestyle, a 53 100 breast, and led off the 400 free relay in 42.3. So seems like he's fine.
200 free.
I'm sorry. What did I say? 32?
You said 36.
Oh, 132.6, 200 free. Yeah, my bad. He seems fine. So he's got 2 dual meets coming up this weekend. One at Stanford, one at Cal the next day after that. Again, I'm going to be at those dual meets because it's not every day that we get to see the number 1 and 2 men's programs duke it out. What do you think we're going to see from Mr. Leon Marchand this weekend, Yin Yin? This isn't a sink or swim. This is a totally crystal ball. We want to know Yin Yin's insight question.
Oh, my insight specifically?
Yours specifically.
Okay. I think he's gonna swim the 400 IM like he did last year, but he has greater reason to do it now because he didn't have the greatest 400 IM by his standards at mid-seasons because he was sick. So I can see him doing that. I feel like he's been swimming the 100 breast a lot. I don't know if that means anything, but I could see him doing it again just based on trend.
Do you think he could swim it at NC's? Partly because ASU's so dominant in the 400, like they have so many other guys in the 4IM.
I mean, it would be fun to see him swim the 100 breast. I don't know if he's gonna risk not swimming his best event, but I don't know. We'll see. And I could see like a 200 distance event, maybe the IM 200 fly, something like that. I feel like he always swims one of those, especially against a good team. So we'll see. I don't know.
Hold on. Picture this. Leon Marchand swims 2 IM, 1 breast, 2 fly at NC's. 5 NC2A records. Only guy to do that since Caleb Dressel.
Wow.
That could happen.
Wait, Caleb Dressel had 5 NC2A records? Oh.
He did at one point, yes.
And, wow, that's insane.
Yeah, and 2 IM.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely did.
Yeah, I knew Caleb Dressel had 5 NC2A records. I just couldn't remember if it was all at once or not.
It was all at once for like a month because he broke the 100 breast and then Ian Finnerty broke it at NC's. But yeah, he did. But dude, I think that's a reality. And I think that's what should happen. So the original question here was, will Leon Marchand break an NC2A record this season at all? And I was going to sink it because I think because of this illness, because of his surgery, and because it's an Olympic year, I think he's in as much as he can be for this NC2A season, but his long-term focus is obviously for Paris. And so I thought he would win 3 titles easily, but he set the bar in those 3 events so high last season that I thought he doesn't need to go best times to win, right? But if he swims the 100 breast and 200 fly, then he can break NC2A records because he doesn't already have them in those events. And that's my official Coleman prediction.
Okay. No comment.
Fine. No comment?
No comment.
That's fine. That's fine, Yin Yin. All right. Bonus sink or swim.
Oh, God.
Northwestern beat UChicago with a plethora of season bests. Was this the hashtag Yin Yin effect, sink or swim?
Well, they beat UChicago. They're a D3 team.
I'm just saying.
Expected.
I'm just saying you're at Northwestern now, and Northwestern's swimming well. They win season bests. Sink or swim, Yin Yin effect.
I think this is the Northwestern freshman recruits and the Rachel Stratton Mills effect. I don't think this is a Yin Yin effect.
Fair enough. We'll say hashtag Rachel Stratton Mills effect.
Yeah.
Hashtag Yin Yin effect.
Yeah.
We'll double hashtag this one. All right. Thanks for listening to the SwimSwam Breakdown. Your week's news in swimming. We'll see you next time.